tonight, eh?
Milo, is that you?
There, I think I got it. There, I pushed the button. I've pushed the button.
The button has been pushed. Does this mean we should take cover?
Yeah, yeah. Everybody that's listening to this podcast should take cover unless they want to get.
Yeah, and if you're old like we are, you'd be under your desk with your kneeling position with your hands over your head.
Speak for yourself. If I'm old, I'm old. I got nothing to lose, boys.
That's it.
I ain't
going to see what it's all about.
Yeah, exactly. I ain't going out with my hands over my head.
There you go. Yeah, that's one way of looking at it.
My card is empty. I'm on the NMRA website.
Yes.
Because this particular podcast that we're introducing is with Ray Persing.
Yes, the new AP chairman for the NMRA.
He is the new AP chairman for the NMRA. And that's why I have you here helping me with the intro, because you're a huge fan of the AP program.
I am, and I was hoping to have been when we were interviewing him, but I had a massive headache that night, so I had to bow out.
Yes, this is episode number 247.
247.
247.
24/7. Hey.
There you go.
AML is 24/7.
So where do you look on the NMRA website for stuff about the AP program?
You look under education.
Oh, okay. Education Achievement Program. Oh, yeah.
Click on Achievement Program, then everything should pop up.
So then when I was talking to him, I said, I think I've got 3 these certificates. And he says, which ones do you have? And I said, I think I got volunteer and author, and I think I have operations.
Yeah, you've got dispatcher.
Or dispatcher.
Yep.
And anyways, long story short, he went and checked for me because he has access to all of the permanent records.
He would.
And I don't have dispatcher.
You don't?
No, all I've got is author and volunteer.
Not possible, because we submitted dispatcher as a group. They all went in together one time.
Do you have yours?
I have mine. I can send you a copy of the paperwork we submitted.
Oh yeah, you still got it?
Yeah.
How many years later?
The only thing that wouldn't be in there might be if you had to do a description of a meet or something like that. That'd be the only thing that I wouldn't have, but everything else I've got.
Why wouldn't you have that if you have everything else?
Because everybody had to do their own.
Oh, okay. I vaguely remember that.
We submitted it as a group, so the basic paperwork could all be one thing, and then everybody had to come up with their own sort of train graph and schedule and describe a meet between 2 trains.
Oh, okay. Well, I could do that if you still have this stuff.
So you should have it, because we got them all at the same time back in 2003. Because
you should double check to see. You should get Ray to double check to see if you have yours, because there's no.
I've got mine. I got the certificate up in my closet upstairs.
Well, he says I don't have mine.
Huh. That's odd.
It is,
because I know I submitted the whole package at one time.
Well, there you go.
Yeah,
I don't.
I will inquire of Ray to recheck that and send him what we sent, and because of everybody else got theirs, you should have yours as well too. So I should have mine. Why. Absolutely, you should have yours.
But I have it directly from the guy in charge. That the only 2 I have. So yeah, if you contract Ray, that'd be cool.
I think the guy in charge may have to look a little harder.
When you contact him, ask him if he has any Rapido trains.
Your fast track to model railroading fun?
Rapido trains, your fast track to model railroading fun.
Like, ask him that too.
I can do that.
See if we can make that a requirement for the AP program.
That somebody has Rapido trains?
Yeah. That's one of the requirements. You have to have some Rapido equipment.
There you go.
I was just seeing as how this is today is don't tell me, today's Monday, and it is October the 6th or the 7th. Today is October the 7th.
Yes.
And I saw a message from, I'd forgotten that David Leobach of Tangent. He's somewhere near Asheville, North Carolina.
Oh, yes, down in the land of disaster, unfortunately.
Yeah. So this is 10 days later. I hope he's doing. I saw a message that he was doing okay several days ago.
Yeah.
So we'll keep our fingers crossed.
Absolutely. Hoping best for everybody involved in that.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
Disaster. I've seen pictures. It's unbelievable.
They said, I've been talking to our little buddy Scooter. His main concern at this point seems to be he has no chocolate ice cream.
Ooh. So in other words, for him, it's not so bad, but for others, yeah.
Well, it's pretty bad. He couldn't get out of his house, out of his neighborhood for several days. And I thought...
He said he was blocked by trees in one direction and flooding in the other direction. And then he told me if you got beyond that, you couldn't go anywhere anyhow. So.
And I thought he'd be like the first guy out there with his chainsaw cutting trees and clearing a path. And then he'd get his skid steer and he'd be doing whatever he could. I figured him for sure to be like the guy saving the town of Greenville.
Unless he couldn't get to it.
Anyway, well, I would think Scooter has a chainsaw in his pickup truck that he carries with him at all times.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, that he always can be, don't worry, I've got it. I can chainsaw it. Because I saw him, wasn't that long ago, he sent me a picture. He was digging post holes for somebody. And he's busy. He's always busy. Well, quit volunteering all your time and maybe you won't be so busy. He should be at home trying to convince Rapido Trains.
Your fast track to model roading fun.
If it's HO, the fast track is Rapido.
To start a whole new line of S-scale equipment. That's what he should be spending his time doing.
Yeah. Speaking of S-scale, the current issue of MR or RMC has some stuff on it. It's MR, I think, has some stuff on S-scale in it.
So the national AP chairman is Ray Persing, who we're going to talk to. It's a great, we talked for an hour and a half, and it's a great chit-chat, just him and I. And we cover all sorts of subjects, and then we get we spend like the last 30 minutes talking about the AP program, and I think he's going to make some pretty good changes. Because they
made some already, and I'm looking forward to see what they're going to do. Yes,
because I was complaining about I don't like paperwork, and it's too cumbersome. And he said, "Well, they're going to work on that. I think it's going to be good. I think because the fellow before he spoke very highly of Frank Koch."
Frank Koch, yes. Frank was a very good guy. He was always monitoring the various social media on Facebook, and if somebody had a question or whatever, you could get a hold of him, he'd get you an answer fairly quickly. He's a real good guy.
And when I was talking to him, I discovered that our very own Craig Drenko is the AP chairman for the Mid-Continent region.
Yes, he is. Master Model Roader and AP chairman.
Yeah, so I think, Craig, we ought to get you onto the podcast at least for a half an hour or something to chat you up and find out all about being the AP chairman for the Mid-Continent region. And for anybody that's out there and wants to get a hold of him, he lives at 3029 Bonnie Meadow Lane in Norfolk, Nebraska. And his phone number is 447-537-3213. And
yes,
operators are standing by.
Operators are standing by, yes.
He's anxiously awaiting your call.
I bet he is.
Sitting there right now by the phone going, gosh, I'm glad Lionel gave out my phone number. I can hardly wait.
Sure. He can hardly wait. The excitement is palpable.
Yeah, exactly. All right, I think we're done. So it's Ray Persing, the new AP chair of the NMRA. It's a great conversation, and when we're done, we'll come back and talk about it. You know what to do.
Subway chimes, go.
All right, check. Ray, I turned on the button. Ray?
Okay. I still hear you.
That's your indication to talk when I say your name.
Oh, hi.
Yeah. Hi.
I did not realize that.
Yeah. Because we're now recording. We're live in the Busted Knuckle studio, or in the AML studio in downtown Busted Knuckle, Kentucky. We're on the 48th floor of the Stuart L. Sterling building. Unfortunately, we've only built 4 floors, but when we're finished, this will be the 48th floor.
It's one hell of a ladder.
Yeah. Well, no, we got stairs and everything. We have great visions of building like a 60-story building in downtown Busted Knuckle, Kentucky, but so far we've only been able to raise enough. We're over top of we're renting a space above a hardware store.
That can be convenient depending upon what your needs are.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you got to tape together the studio. So, just so everybody...
Tape and WD-40, they keep the world going.
Yep, and silicone spray. Silicone and white grease spray. There you go. So we're talking to a fellow named Ray Persing, who I've known for 10 years, I guess now, since I started the podcast.
More than that.
Was it?
Yeah, it's... I think it was more. Well, at the very least, it was 2001 or 2000 because it was at the one of the Morgantown MCR conventions.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah.
And then I invited you to be the keynote for the 2002 convention. And that was when you and Alan and McClellan got into it a bit.
We got into it. I don't even remember that. You better tell me.
I don't know. I don't think there were any witnesses. I think the photographs that you supplied during the speech may have been suspect.
Oh, okay. There was photographs during the speech.
There were.
How was I as the keynote speaker?
You were outstanding.
Oh, was I?
That's why I invited you.
Oh, okay.
You were.
All right. I did a great job.
You should get paid for talking to people.
All right. Yeah, I should. That would be great. That's a hell of an idea. So that's how we met, but we've stayed in touch off and on through the 20 years, and I've just always, you come up to me at Springfield or a train show or an NMRA train show, and we stay in contact. And then years and years ago, you told me about your son Stephen, who is how exactly how do we describe Stephen's condition?
Stephen had a neonatal traumatic brain injury. So basically, when he was born, it was a complicated birth. He had some oxygen deprivation, and as a result, he's got some brain damage as a result.
Right.
So,
and then
he's one of those kids where you and I have talked about this. He's made liars out of all the doctors. The ones who said he would never walk, he'd never talk, he'd never ride a bike. Well, he walks and he talks, and he loves trains. I have no idea how that happened.
Yeah, and I sent him a couple of shirts along the way. I should send him some more shirts.
Yeah, he loved that leaf shirt.
All right, well then I'm sending him another leaf shirt. I got to send him another leaf shirt. Anybody that wants a leaf shirt's okay in my books. Even though he lives in the Dayton area. Dayton, Ohio, which I guess the nearest NHL team is either Detroit or Columbus.
Columbus.
Okay.
Columbus is about an hour and 20 minutes.
How far is it from Dayton to, say, Detroit?
Detroit's a good 3 hours.
And Indianapolis is kind of directly to the west, is it not?
Yeah, so Indianapolis, basically, we're splitting the difference between Indianapolis and Columbus.
Okay, so it's only about an hour and a half to Indianapolis.
Yeah, about that.
Oh, okay. And through the years, you and I have stayed in constant contact. We've always been friends, blah, 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 blah. But that's the beauty of this podcast. Because I say to people, I say to my buddy Chris Adams, who's right now fretting over something about his layout. He's trying to decide whether he should move this an inch to the left or an inch to the right, or maybe paint it a different color. Whatever it is, he's fretting about it and posting on Facebook to get opinions about what he should do. But the great thing about this podcast is you wouldn't call somebody up and say, hey, would you like to talk on the phone for an hour and a half? But if you call them up and say, hey, you want to be on my podcast? People are like, yeah, okay, I'll come on. And that's when I get to talk to people. And so that's basically what we're doing. We're having you on the podcast because it wasn't that long ago I found out that you are the new AP chairman for the NMRA.
Yeah, that is correct.
But there's a long and interesting history to Ray Persing before we get to that discussion. because I'm assuming you, like the rest of us, you got bit by the model railroading bug as a young child.
Very young, very young. My my parents used to tell a story about how we went to see a railroad museum, and I started crying because I couldn't see the train. And it turns out the reason I couldn't see the train is I was standing right next to the 60-inch driver, and I'm only 24 inches tall, and I can't see the train because there's this big wheel in the way. But yeah, so it's really been a lifelong thing. My dad had some very early HO scale trains, not very early, but early-ish, 1960s vintage trains in the basement that we would go down and run on every once in a while. When I was 3 years old, Santa gave me a 4x4 sheet of plywood with a circle of track stapled to it, and some battery operated trains that would run on that track. So that was great. And then it really just grew from there. My dad was always into trains. He was he had polio when he was a kid, and when you have a basement and you need to using the basement to run the trains and have a layout board, he was able to go up and down the stairs for quite a while, but eventually it just got to be too much work for him. And after he stopped going up and down the stairs, well, I kind of became the purveyor of the layout by default. And so I had a 16 by 6 foot train board in the basement, and I would take apart the sectional track. I would rearrange the sectional track. I would do all kinds of different things with it, just exploring different possibilities. And then I discovered this chap called John Armstrong, who wrote a book about layout planning, and I read that thing from front to back, side to side, and immediately tore everything out and started replanning it based upon his principles, at which point we realized we did not have enough sectional track, and I was off to the hobby store to buy some flex track, which we had never had before. And I walked in the door with that, and my dad looked at me and said, "What is that?" I was like, "It's train track, Dad." But yeah, and so that's I did that all through high school. Went to college, and college, there are other things going on besides trains. There's classes and girls and cars and girls and
cars,
working and girls and and so you get distracted.
Yes,
and,
it's kind of a.
And I really didn't get.
I was just going to say it's really kind of a unique. Everybody you talk to, most people you talk to, they all have that gap of. Well, I started when I was 4. I started when I was 5. And then when I got to be out of high school and went to college, there was no trains and stuff for a while because of cars and girls. And then you come back to it.
In 2002, that same convention that you and I were talking about earlier, Tony Kester came in, and he was we were talking about the Dayton and Troy Electric Railway, which was an interurban that ran in the Western Ohio area from 1900 to 1932. And I had written an article for him for Model Railroad Planning, and we were talking about this as we're chasing the route of the railroad. And we started talking about it, and I asked him when he got into the railroads. And he told me, when I was about 12. I said, "That's perfect. That's the perfect age. You're old enough that you can do some really interesting things. You've got the skills, you got the ability to follow instructions and follow along in a magazine, and yet you're not so old that you're getting distracted by cars and girls."
Yeah, that's right. And then you get a good running start at it, so that when you come back to it, which everybody does for some reason or other, it's my lifelong goal now is to figure out what it is about model railroading that once you get in, you can never get out. It's in your blood. I don't know what it is. It's there's something about this hobby that once you're in, you can't get out. It's like their fellow. A new fellow we've talked to recently, Todd Treaster, who's just retired from the Norfolk Southern as a locomotive engineer. And I mean, not only was he a full-time locomotive engineer for 30 years, he also is a avid N-scaler, has a beautiful N-scale layout, and one of the largest collections of N-scale equipment, possibly, I think it might be the largest collection of N-scale equipment in the world. And, he loves trains, and it's, I don't know what it is. It's something about someday I'd love to figure it out. I'd really love to figure it out. But okay, so now college is done. And what did you
College is done.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, what did you go, like, what did you study in college?
Aerospace engineering.
Okay.
So, and I was thinking about what you're saying about the whole people keep coming back to it. I honestly think it's kind of a left brain, right brain kind of thing. A lot of us, we have careers that are focused very much on methods, and you have to have that productivity, you have to have that stick-to-itiveness. But this is model railroading. It's a very right brain, right hemisphere kind of thing. I have my mom is an artist. She works in watercolors and pastels and oils, and we've had this conversation. And she looks at what I've done, and she looks at what she sees in the magazines. It's like, you guys are just you're artists, pure and simple. It's a different kind of format. It's a different kind of focus, but you don't do this without having an understanding of spatial relations and color and texture and all of the things that go into folk art. So and obviously I think a lot of her, and so that's something I kind of carry with me. This is an artistic homage to days gone by.
And would this be a fair statement, or would this be an obscure statement? I feel like this makes sense, but it may not, and feel free to tell me if it doesn't. But I would say that the difference between being an artist that does watercolors or oils or paints on a canvas can be more deflating if you're not that good at it. Like, I could never be an artist. I could try. I could draw abstract. I could do abstract art, maybe, blah, 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 blah. But I feel like the difference with model railroading is, like, I basically agree with what your mother says. But I think the difference with model railroading is, if you're not that good at it, it doesn't matter. You'll be able to find something you can do. Like I use the analogy of, I got friends that love the electrical side of it, and I have no desire to install decoders in locomotives. Zero desire. Here, I'll pay somebody $100 to do it. I don't want to do it. But I love weathering. I love scenery. I love putting the basic track down and doing good basic wiring and things like that. But I can never see me doing anything on a canvas that would even remotely resemble art.
Well, it's like any other skill. You have to take the time to learn it. You have to take the time to practice it, and the more you practice, the better you tend to get.
Yeah, I suppose
we tend to put our focus on little trains.
Yeah, I suppose. I just feel like model railroading gives you the entry level isn't as difficult. You can be satisfied. Would this make sense? You can be satisfied quicker in model railroading. Maybe.
Yeah, I would accept that.
Yeah, I think so. I'm just looking at one of the pit.
Well, and especially now. I mean, you think about what it was like when we first got it started in the hobby, 30, 40, 50 years ago. And the amount of product that you have on the shelf right now, that if it's not ready to run, it's awfully close to it. I mean, the trees that you can get from Woodland Scenics these days, in comparison to what we had available, we were using dried weeds because we had nothing better to go with.
Yeah.
Alan McClellan, when he was building the original version of the V&O, there's a reason Dayton was called the lichen belt, because that was the way you did trees. And over the years, he gradually replaced all of that with ground foam and polyfiber and things like that, because it was more realistic.
Yeah, exactly. I started out with lichen myself, and then somehow discovered polyfiber and found ways that I could make. And then, at first I'd make individual balls and stick them on and blah, blah, blah. And then realized that when you're passing through a valley in West Virginia or something and you look up at the hillside, you're not seeing individual trees. Maybe occasionally one will stick out, but generally you're just seeing this big ball of fluff, of green fluff. And so I graduated to where I took my polyfiber and I would just spread it out in a lumpy way across a hillside. And then, spray 3M spray on glue or whatever, and then just blow ground foam onto that, and boom. I can remember I could do 5 feet a hillside, 5 to 6 feet of hillside in an evening.
Have you ever been to Entertainment Junction, just north of Cincinnati?
I have never been to Entertainment Junction, just north of Cincinnati.
Okay, well, that is a 25,000 foot G-scale indoor layout. The guy that owns it, I can't remember his name right off the top of my head, but he bought this warehouse building, and he built and worked with a lot of other modelers. There was a lot of volunteer labor that went into this. Built this G-gauge layout, and the reason I bring that up in conjunction with trees is he used expanding foam. He built a wire lattice. He sprayed the expanding foam over it, and when that expands, it kind of gets this lumpy look to it if it's not constrained. And then he just spray painted it.
Wow.
And it looks great.
Yeah, I'm kind of annoyed at you now.
Why is that?
Well, I've never heard of Entertainment Junction, and now it's like
go quick because it's closing the beginning of the year.
Oh, is it really?
He has decided to retire. He's been trying to sell the layout for months, and nobody wants the layout. They just want the building.
Oh yeah, that's one of the things. If you ever sell your house, you got to get the layout out first and clean up a room.
Yeah.
It scares people to come into a house and see a model railroad in it. They don't want any part. They don't want any part of it. So wow, this is terrible news. You're telling me this just as he's about to close.
Well, you've got like 3 months.
Yeah. Phone number 513-898-8000. So it's Entertainment Junction at 7379 Squire Court, Westchester Township, Ohio.
Yes.
And I'm assuming he's been there for years and years.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember because I remember when they started building, and I was trying to remember when it was. It's been in the vicinity of 20 years or so.
Yeah, and it looks like it's about 30 miles north of downtown Cincinnati.
Correct.
All right.
It's right off the interstate. It couldn't be easier to get to.
And it's got a 4 point.
Anybody who's traveling on I-75 over the next 3 months, if you're going through Cincinnati, you need to make a stop.
You absolutely need to make a stop so that you can see it. And it's got a 4.8 Google rating with almost 3,000 reviews. And fantastic pictures, and it actually looks like a pretty good layout, to be honest with you.
It's a very good layout. He basically it's separated into different eras. So you've got the very beginning Civil War era. In fact, there's a Civil War encampment scene on there, and then it just goes up through the teens, the 20s, the 30s, the 50s, and there's a modern era with intermodal traffic and containers.
Wow.
It's really extremely well done.
Entertainment Junction. And now it's unfortunate. There was another big one in New Jersey. But I think they actually found a company that bought the building. And then when the company discovered what was in the building, they decided to keep the layout going.
Yeah, I mean, I think the website said he has something like 125,000 visitors a year or something like that.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
Okay, here's let's see if we can, about us. We probably, see, you were worried about what we were going to talk about, and sadly, we are closing our doors for the last time in January 2025. Owner Don Oeters Otters probably decided to announce the closing early so those folks who love Entertainment Junction and want to visit again have the chance to do so. Voted Ohio's best family entertainment center. Is unlike any indoor family entertainment center. Second world-class attraction is amazing fun house. Plus a moment. Wow, look at that. All right. I should make some sort of an attempt to contact this fellow and get him on here, although I'm not sure how much he'd want to talk about it now that he's closing it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if somebody out there has the money, I'm sure he'd be willing to entertain offers.
See, and you before we even started, you said, well, I'm not sure we can talk for an hour and 20 minutes. We've already talked for 21 minutes, and we've barely talked about anything other than Entertainment Junction, and you've enlightened me about something I didn't even know existed. It's let's see what exit.
I consider it a public service to enlighten you.
Yeah, well, I think that's wise. It's a full-time job to keep me informed. I'm not. Let's see if I can figure out what exit it is. It is exit number. Doesn't tell me what. Exit number 22. On Interstate 75.
Yep, Tylersville Road.
So that would be 22 miles, probably, going north to south. Either way, it's 22 miles from the
22
Kentucky
miles north of the Ohio border.
Yeah,
north of the river.
north of the Ohio River, north of the Ohio border, and then the next state is Kentucky. Am I correct?
Correct.
All right. So it's 22 miles north of Kentucky. All right. Well, look at that. See, now we've already killed a bunch of time, and we haven't even hardly. How did we get talking about Entertainment Junction?
It was trees.
Oh, yeah, right. See, that's the beauty of this podcast. You see, I would never call you up and say, hey, let's start talking. And the next thing you know, we're talking because we're trying to inform people. And then as you're trying to inform people, you start talking about this and that. And the next thing, and away you go. Okay, before we get much farther in this, we need to clear something up for me that I've been very confused about with our, where I was the keynote speaker? Where was the convention?
Where was that?
Obviously made a big impression on you.
No, I'm not. It was the Dayton. It was the Dayton MCR convention.
I think
the first one was in. I think the first one was in Morgantown, and then the one that I invited you to was the one that I was chairing in 2002, and that was
okay. Because Eric Hansman got me to Morgantown, and then just to test my abilities before we started the presentation, he dumped my tray of slides on the floor. Actually, I think we dumped it on the floor together, but either way, I had not put the secure ring on the slide tray because I guess I was probably changing the man. It's so easy to do a presentation now, and back then, even just 20 years ago, you had slides and you had them in a tray, and you keep changing the slides and you keep working on it at home and blah blah blah. And there was I
have 3 carousels in the basement of old presentations. I have no idea what I'm going to do with them, but I can't bear to throw them out.
Well, exactly. I got like the same thing. I got like 3 or 4 carousels of slides that I need to put on, have them scanned and put on. I saw a thing the other day where you can do it on your phone. But yeah, I got like 3 or 4 trays of slides myself. But back then on these carousel rings or slide trays, there was a ring that you attached to the top of the tray that would keep all the slides in place and lock the slides in place that I had obviously failed to do I was probably working on the presentation 2 days or 2 minutes before I left the house. I remember doing that a lot. Always constantly working. And did you ever go through this experience? The very first time you ever did a clinic, you had way too many slides.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think every
time.
Yeah, every fresh clinician, everybody who's doing a clinic for the first time, I think runs into that problem. They got way too many slides. Nowadays, you do it on PowerPoint or whatever your mode is on your computer. But everybody, when you do your clinic for the first time, you got like 80 slides when you should have like 35. And you're clicking away and you're like, okay, well, we're almost out of time and I got another 40 slides to go. That's what I remember.
Yeah, my rule of thumb is one, I get this point PowerPoint, but 1 slide for every minute that you have.
Yeah, exactly.
If you got more than that, you're not going to get done.
And if you're a talker, you don't need that many slides. Because
you do not.
If you invite questions as you're going along, somebody's going to have a question. That's going to turn into a 5-minute conversation, and boom, now you need 4 less slides.
And again, situational dependent. And I do a number of presentations at work. If you're pressed for time, it's like appreciate everybody's input, but in order to get through everything, can just hold all the questions till the end, and then we'll address them one by one. But it's time management.
You don't sound like you're that much fun doing a presentation then. Hold all your questions to the end.
It depends. I won't do that during a model railroading presentation. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's what we got to talk about. That's what we got to talk about is because as we've stated
model railroading? Is this like a model railroading thing?
It is. Well, it's partly model railroading. That's the beauty of this podcast is it's not just about the model railroading. I mean, you can only talk about ballasting track so many times or how to weather a car so many times. You got to talk about the people. And so one of the things, as we've been friends for 20 years, it just seems like 10 years. Time goes so fast. But one of the things that I've never fully understood as I've followed you on Facebook or wherever is some of the time you were in England.
Yeah.
And I never even understood who you were working for. Are you the head of NASA?
No. He's a mate, though.
Is he really?
No, actually,
Bill Nelson. What's it? Bill Nelson, isn't it? William Nelson?
Yeah, currently, yes. No, I don't know Director Nelson.
Okay.
I do know some people that work for him, but I don't know him.
Okay.
And they're like many levels removed.
Right.
But no, I worked for the U.S. Air Force, and I had a gig where for 5 years I was doing work for the British government
On behalf of the U.S. Air Force.
on behalf of the U.S. Air Force.
Okay. And so for 5 years you lived in England.
Yes.
Oh, you know what? There's a Texas Roadhouse at the same exit where the Entertainment Junction is.
There's all kinds of things at that exit. That exit has got it's got everything.
This is almost a tragedy that you've told me about this, and it's ending on January 6, 2020. Like, well, this will probably be broadcast.
You just need to get Ann to take Ann on a road trip. We're going to go down to Cincinnati.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and this will probably be broadcast in October, sometime in October, and it's this right now when people are hearing this is probably sometime in October, and it's only like a couple of months until the thing closes. October, November, December. Yeah, it's like 2.5 months until it closes. What a bummer.
Well, I mean, if you know somebody that's got $7 million burning a hole in their pocket, I'm sure they'd be happy to sell it.
Is that what he wants for it? $7 million?
Something like that. I can't swear to that figure, but the layout. Well, the building itself is worth quite a bit, and it's in a prime location.
Oh yeah.
That's why a lot of the people who have. Yeah, again, this is third-hand information, but my understanding is a lot of people who have approached them have no interest in the layout, but they do want that building very badly.
Oh yeah, for any business it would be handy because it's right at exit 22.
Yeah.
What a fascinating. And it costs $19.95 to get in, or
something like that.
Yeah, that's what it says.
Well, it's been a while since I've been there. Steve used to have a season pass. He used to have an annual pass that we would buy him for Christmas.
Yeah, your son. Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, so then you get out of college and somehow you get hired by the United States Air Force.
Yeah, and doing those, using those aerospace engineering skills, and I've worked for the government since then. But I had originally started out in the Philadelphia area. And when I got married, we had 2 kids, and there was no way I was going to be able to make ends meet on that salary outside of Philadelphia. And so I knew there was a position available here at in Dayton at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And so we moved back here and started a new job here. And when I started the job here, I went back to the Model Railroad Club that I had joined as a teenager, and so came full circle there. And so now I'm back involved in model railroading. I've got a space that I can put a small home layout up in. So did that for a while. And while I'm a member of Crossroads Railroad Club here in Dayton, a couple of the members said, "Hey, you really ought to check out the NMRA." And now I knew about the NMRA because it's a National Model Railroad Association. It was in all the magazines, and every year there was this amazing spread of photos from the contest room, and you would drool over those photos. In 1975, I was 12 years old. The National Convention was here in Dayton. My father very cleverly had planned a family trip out of state for the same week that the convention was being held. And so I didn't get to go to any of it, but he did promise in 3 years it's going to be up in Dearborn. We'll drive up to Dearborn and we'll go to the National Convention then. And so in 1978, we all get into the 76 Buick Estate wagon with the big whale thing with the way back third seat, and we go up to Dearborn. And I walk into the contest room, and there is the most amazing model of a concrete coal dock sitting there. If you have the Model Railroader, I think it was in September or October that year when they did Jim Hediger wrote the review, and that's the lead photo. And when I saw that coal dock, and I'm 15 years old, and I'm thinking, I want to learn how to make models like this. This is the most gorgeous thing I've ever seen in my life. And that was what really got me interested in the NMRA. So fast forward to 1992, and Merv Hardman and Kenny Treadwell were saying, "Hey, you'd really like this. You'd really be interested in this." And of course, I had this memory from '78, and so I go along with them to a meeting. And I don't remember what the program was, but everybody was very welcoming. And before I knew it, I'm starting to enter my own models into these contest rooms, and it was just a really positive experience. The first one that I went to was 1993. It was at Valley Forge. And I didn't know what I was doing. I just had this model that I had brought with me that I thought was pretty good. And I walk into the contest room. There's all of this amazing work, and my little train station is pales in comparison. But it's like, okay, I've committed to doing this. I'm going to keep at it. I'm going to give it a go. And I went to the guy that was behind the registration counter, and I said, "Look, I see this paperwork here. I've never done this before, but I work for the government. I know there is a right way and a wrong way to fill this out. So please talk to me about what the right way is." And the guy, God bless him, sat with me for an hour and went through the contest paperwork and said, "Okay, this is the construction category. Here's what they're looking for. This is detail. Here's what they're looking for." And he went through the entire thing and basically gave me the crib sheet on how to fill the paperwork out. And so I went home, I did that, I came back, passed it in, and at the end of the day, that model ended up with an honorable mention and a merit award. And yeah, and I'm thinking, what's a merit award? It's just the little red, white, and blue ribbon next to the model that says merit award. I had no idea what it was. And it turns out that's part of the NMRA Achievement Program. That's how you recognize outstanding models. And that was the beginning of how I got to where I am now in the NMRA.
No, we're not going to get there yet. You're going to have to be patient. We're a ways away yet from that part of the discussion, because I like to fill in the blanks, because I like to know stuff that I didn't know. It's this beauty of this is I get to ask questions that I've had pressing on my brain for years. So, okay, so somehow you end up, how would you find out about a job in the United States Air Force if you're working in private enterprise?
That's where my dad worked.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was he had gotten his a master's degree in mathematics, and in 1968 there wasn't anything that was very few people had a degree, very few universities had a degree in this thing called computer programming. Usually you just went to a mathematician, because that's really what you're doing, is you're translating math into code and having the machine run the math for you. And so because he was good at math, he got himself a job with the Air Force, which is why we ended up in Dayton. Huh. And he was still there in 1989. And when I said, "Hey, do you know of any jobs?" And he said, "Oh yeah, there's this guy over here in the aircraft performance shop that would like to talk to you."
So your dad was probably the guy that designed the F-16 Fighting Falcon.
He was not. He was not. But no, so, he did a lot of amazing things in his life.
I'll bet. That's see, to me, that's like your dad was a model railroader. Like, he enjoyed model railroading, which is important, because more and more people I talk to, when the podcast first started 10 years ago, it wasn't as common, but more and more people I talked to, their dad were model railroaders, and it carried on down through the family. And me personally, I think this hobby's going to grow like crazy because of the internet and the availability of information. And, more and more people I talk to, it's kind of like, well, my dad did it, so I did it. And, some people, my dad did it, but my brother was never interested, but I loved it. And yada, yada. Trains are just, why people love trains, I'll never know. It's got something to do with the fact that there's these gigantic machines sitting on two ribbons of rail that disappear into the sunset. It's magical. Something about trains is magical. And I don't know what it is.
Yeah. Well, I think it's the same thing. Why, people have always been fascinated by dragons. It's big and powerful and mysterious. But now with model railroading, you can take that big, powerful, mysterious object that's running off into the night in those two rails, and now you can have a miniature version of it in your basement.
So when you're in Britain,
that you can control.
Well, exactly. Yeah, that's a big part of it. People say that, but I think it's more what your mother says. I think it's more that it's an artistic endeavor that, because if you're an artist, you never stop wanting to paint. Like till your dying day, you're always willing to pick up a brush and sit in front of a canvas and do something. And I think that's part of the beauty of model railroading. I think a lot of model railroaders live long and satisfying lives because they always have model railroading to turn to. My buddy Uncle Dave Abel, he says it's like a friend that you can always count on. When you don't want to work on it, it doesn't mind. Your model railroad doesn't mind. When you want to work on it, it's there like a faithful puppy that wants to just be with you and let you work on it. When you want to play with it, it's all about it. It's like it's just there. It's always there. No matter what the situation, it's always there.
Well, and as you mentioned earlier, there's so many different aspects to it. I mean, there's the scenery, there's the cars, there's the locomotives, there's the electrical, there's structures. There's so many different things you can do with that model railroad. And that's one of the beauties of the hobby is that it can be anything you want it to be. It's all things to all people. That's why you see everything from live steam that you can write on to Lego to Z scale.
Yeah, I got questions about Lego when we get to that part. So what years were you in Great Britain?
That would have been 2018 to 2023.
And what was the model railroad scene like there? Did you investigate it at all?
I did. I was a member of the Model Railroad Club, which is the oldest model railway club in the world. That's got a base near King's Cross Station in London. They have many different layouts, and they basically share space in the workshop in between setting up. So the one I was a member of was the Putnam Division. It was a New York Central HO scale prototype, which was somewhat unusual. But I came in there and I learned a lot about how they build layouts and how they do their electrics and how they do a lot of the things that they have to do because they can't typically have a fixed permanent layout. And that was one of the things I discovered is that the sizes of the layouts generally were either smaller or they were portable and only set up in big exhibition halls when they had a model railway show. But they were just exquisitely well done. Absolutely amazing workmanship. The Model Railway Club, I think, has 7 or 8 or 9 different layouts that they will take to the various shows. And I've seen layouts that are as big as a couple of sheets of paper that were just absolutely incredible and designed to operate. You've got an operating schema for that layout. And the workmanship of the UK layouts I'll put up against anybody. And the part of it, I think, is because the prevalence of railroads still in UK culture. I mean, you don't get around the country without taking a train. You don't get around London without getting on the tube. And because of that, they're very, very much in the forefront of not just people who go and stand trackside and look for engines and that they want to see. It's everybody. Trains are a factor in everybody's life. And so it's very prevalent. And because of that, there's trade shows literally every weekend. I could go within 2 hours of London. I could find a train show literally every weekend of the year.
And did you ever?
And it was amazing.
And did you go to that big? I'm sure you went to the big Warrington show. It seems like that was the big show in
the Worley show up in Birmingham at the National Exhibition. Yes, I did. And that was incredible. It's not quite as incredible as Amherst, but it was pretty good.
Right.
The other one that was great was the London Festival of Model Railroading, which is in a Victorian exhibition hall called Alexandra Palace. And you should go online, just look at the pictures of Ali Pally at some point. It's just an amazing space.
Ali Pally?
And we get to play with Alexandra Palace, colloquially known as Ali Pally. And it's North London, and just an absolutely amazing structure. Yeah.
Actually,
it's one of those things where if it were in the U.S., it had been torn down decades ago because it wasn't efficient or whatever the reason would be.
It says Alexandra.
The UK preserves it.
Alexandra Palace.
Alexandra Palace.
Hang on. Alexandra Palace is an entertainment and sports venue in North London, situated between Wood Green and Muswell Hill. Does that? It seems like it's a theater.
That's it.
And what does that?
No, you need to go.
Okay, and what does that have to do?
You need to look at the pictures.
What's that? Say that again.
That is where they hold the London Festival of Model Railroading every year.
In this theater.
It's not a theater; it's an exhibition hall.
Oh.
You know, think about it as a Victorian convention center.
Oh yeah, look at that! Holy mackerel, it's huge. It's huge. Alley Pally.
Yeah.
All right, but I'm still stuck back about the Model Railroad Club, the MRC. The Model Railroad Club is recognized by the Guinness Book of World Records as the oldest model railway society in the world, having been formed in 1910, hence being known as the MRC. The club has been synonymous with the hobby over 110 years, with famous members including Peter Denny, builder of the iconic Buckingham Great Central Railroad, C.J. Fraser, former editor. Today, the MRC is the largest club in the UK by a number of members and has its own purpose-built premises, Keene House, situated in central London, 10 minutes from King's Cross. As well as being home of the MRC, Keene House is also home to many railway and modeling societies who hold their regular meetings. Our club room has a licensed bar and library with over 5,000 books and periodicals. Peter Borchardt, I know you're listening to this right now. You should have been telling me all about this stuff. He's the president of the British region. Peter, you have next year at Springfield. Peter, you need to talk to me more about the Model Railway Club and all of this stuff. See, 45 minutes. Look at how much we've talked about it. Look how much stuff I've learned already. Holy mackerel. You were right. You're going to be boring. Young MRC. What is that? I wonder what that means. Maybe it's for the young members or something. Young MRC is the monthly Saturday morning club for younger railway modelers, as they say in Great Britain or Europe, aged from 8 to 14, which is held from 10 a.m. to 12 noon, 1 p.m. to 3, and normally on the second Saturday of each month. Help to build a layout, improve your skills, blah, 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 blah. What a great, man. I'm telling you, this hobby is massive, and nobody knows about it. Like I say, what's the word? I see it like auto racing, only it's not as exciting. But, in every town you go to, every town of 20,000 you go to, you're going to find 3 or 4 guys that have race cars. And you're going to find more than that are interested in model railroading. It's, I think this hobby is going to grow like crazy. But you've heard me say that 1,000 times. All right, so you were in England. Go ahead.
No, yeah, well, you think about it, and I'm thinking back to the day when the circulation of model railroader was somewhat more than it is now. But at the time, I just did a rough calculation. There was probably 1 in every 1,000 people was a model railroader, serious enough that he gets the magazine on a regular basis.
No,
so you think about 1 out of every 1,000. We got 320 million people in the U.S. That means there's, 320,000 people who are interested in model railroading,
who are serious about the hobby. Yeah. Exactly. And I think the population in the United States now is more like 340, so it's closer to 350,000 people, and it's probably close to 500,000 people that are very, very interested in the hobby. Because even if you don't have a layout, but you enjoy the hobby through operation or whatever, you're still a model railroader as far as I'm concerned. Rich Wisniewski, the Wiz, as we like to call him. And yes, Rich, we're still going to do the great layout visiting thing that I was doing with him and Ralph and Tom and Doug Watts. Okay, so now you've been in England. You've been exposed to. So can you just give me a quick synopsis or a quick description of what is the differences? What struck you as the major differences between model railroading in Great Britain and model railroading in North America?
There are no basements in Great Britain.
Okay.
And so if you're going to have a reasonably sized home layout, you have to be a place where you can dedicate a spare room, or you can build an outbuilding that put a railroad in, because basements are not a thing. They're cellars, but they are what they sound like. So because of that, you don't have these big home layouts, people belong to clubs, and the clubs build exhibition layouts, and those go to these different shows that we talked about. The other thing is people will just build a smaller layout and take that themselves to a show. I know a number of people that have built basically shelf style layouts that are a couple of feet deep and maybe 16 feet long, but you can fit them into a minivan and take them to a show. And so you see a lot of layouts like that are, like I said, very well detailed. They run flawlessly, and but they're operationally prototypic. There's also a lot more prototypical based things where you will actually go to a station and you will model that station. You may or may not use selective compression, but you will model that station and everything around it, because a lot of it is just, it's not operating. It'll be trains running through that scene. So I think that's the biggest thing. But the biggest thing is the really small layouts. That's the biggest difference. You don't, because here in the States, I mean, you go to Amherst, you go to Springfield, you'll see big exhibition layouts, but you don't very often see ones that are only, a foot deep and 4 feet long.
Exactly.
That's more the norm in the UK.
Right. And yet, I think as time goes along, that'll become more the norm in North America. There will always be big home layouts, and there will always be people starting them, Tom Schmieder. There will always be people building them. And but I think smaller layouts will become more in vogue as time goes by.
Yeah, I would accept that. And because, I think people are beginning to realize that you don't need to have that huge basement empire to have fun with the hobby. You can have just as much fun building a single module, a single 2x4 foot module, or maybe a couple of them and stitch them together. And then if you want to swap trains in and out, you put another one on the end with a sector plate on it so you can change trains around. There's all kinds of things you can do, and you don't need a huge amount of space.
All right, so now the reason we got together for this conversation is because I found out that you are now the Achievement Program. I got another question for you, but okay, we'll come back to that. You're the what do you call it? The guy in charge of the Achievement Program, the AP program, the Master Model Railroader program.
It's the Achievement Program for the NMRA. The Master Model Railroader is one of the elements that falls under that. Yes. Yeah,
like you're the guy that people who
I am where the buck stops. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And do you have aspirations of being a Master Model Railroader?
In order to achieve Master Model Railroader, there are 11 different certificates in 4 categories, and to get the MMR, you must earn 7 certificates, at least 1 in each category. Right now, I have 4, and I've made arrangements to have some work assessed in November, which should take care of the other 3. So, assuming that goes well, I will have completed the requirements coming up here towards the end of the year.
So then the answer would be yes. You do have aspirations.
So the answer would be yes. That's a long way of saying yes.
Yeah, there's not by chance. Did you work for the government at any time in your life?
Could be. Yeah, maybe, perhaps.
So how did you end up being the AP chairman?
Well, I mentioned earlier how I'd seen that model in Dearborn, and then I'd gotten involved after we'd moved back to Ohio in the NMRA and that contest in Valley Forge, and that was such a positive experience. I just kept at it. Yeah, and over the last, I guess that's 30 years now, I've made a lot of friends in the NMRA, most of it through the contest room and the AP program. I've learned a tremendous amount. And what happened was in 2022 at the British Region NMRA convention, Gordy Robinson, who's the president of the NMRA, and I were sitting at the bar one night. I know you find that absolutely shocking, but so we're sitting at the bar, and we were talking about the achievement program and things that we thought were working really well and things that we thought could be improved. And he said, Frank has said that when he gets out of this, he thinks you would be a really good replacement. It's like, okay. I appreciate the compliment, but Frank's not going anywhere, is he? Yeah. Well, turns out Frank decided last year that Frank Koch, who was the previous AP chair, decided it was time for him to get out of the business, and he's still involved with the NMRA. He's the treasurer for the organization and just a great guy. But he decided the AP was not something he was going to do anymore. At which point Gordy said, "Hey, you remember what we talked about?" And so here we are.
And Koch is spelled Koch. I've heard nothing but good things about Frank.
Correct.
I've never.
Correct. He's a great guy. He's just absolutely amazing.
I've never met the man, but I've only ever heard positive comments.
He was actually named a fellow of the NMRA at the national convention this year. I think that's 28 in the 90-year history of the organization.
Wow, what's a fellow? Just somebody that's important?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, basically, it's that you have done everything that you can possibly do for the hobby. We could not have done it without you.
Wow, that's cool. I wonder, is there any place on the internet to see the list or the on the NMRA thing to see who all is a fellow? I've never even heard of that. I literally have never even heard of that. Is that kind of like the Hall of Fame or something?
Okay, so if www.nmra.org fellow-NMRA-award. And there's a complete listing there, and it's people like Gil Freitag and Alan McClellan and Tom Draper,
right?
Yeah, Mike Brestol, who I think you knew.
Yes, I knew Mike. Yeah, very well.
Charlie Getz, Jerry Leone.
I put in NMRA fellow. What do I got to put in? NMRA.org/fellow or something.
If you didn't. I just put NMRA fellow into my tab. NMRA space fellow.
That's what I put in Google, and it's not coming up. Let me try. This is always the most. This is always the most exciting part of the podcast. Is when I'm trying to work the computer. because I'm an idiot, and I got no problem with that. The fellow of the NMRA. Well, here it is. Here, yeah. So they just started that in 2007. And that's right. In 2007, it was Gil Freitag and Alan McClellan and then Jim Persing. And wow, look at that! I never even knew that this existed. This should be something they should make more of a effort to. What is HLM?
It's an honorary life member.
Oh, okay. So have you been? How long have you? When did you first join the NMRA? Have you been a lifelong member of the NMRA?
I joined in probably 92.
Okay. So
it's been a while.
So you've been, how old would you have been in 92? The questions get easier.
29.
29. Ray, what is your name?
No, wait. Yeah, 29. Yeah. Math.
Now I'm in
math in my head.
Now I'm in mind of the hippy dippy weatherman. Bob, what is your name? Well, that's interesting stuff. Okay. So then Frank, how long was he the AP chairman?
Something like 20 years.
And how old are you now?
Sorry?
How old are you now?
61.
The questions will get easier as we go along, Ray. I promise.
You say that.
I say that. Like I promise it, but it doesn't seem to be happening. Okay, so when did you become the official chairman of the AP program? What was the date?
1st of July.
1st of July.
So it's been, 2 months.
2 months. As of this recording, it's been 2 months. And has anything surprised you so far? Or does it just seem overwhelming? Or where are you at mind-wise with this whole thing?
Nothing has really surprised me so far because I've been around it. I've been around the program for long enough. I kind of knew where the landmines were. I knew where the hot button topics were. I knew generally what people liked and did not like about the program, and so I wasn't coming into it blind. So from that perspective, nothing has really surprised me. I'm processing maybe 40 awards a month. So the way that works is the member will submit their statement of qualifications to their division AP guy. He will forward it up to the region who assigns it a regional control number, and then it comes to me for the final approval at the national level. And then I print out the awards, and I put the little sticker and ribbon on it, and I sign it, and then send it back out so it can be properly distributed and with the appropriate level of ceremony given to the member at some point in the future. So that takes a little bit of time, and I'm building up some processes. Basically going through building some Excel formulas, some spreadsheets and things that hopefully will make it a little bit easier and keep errors from creeping in as we go through that process. But right now, every time I do a report, I send it out to the regional AP chairs and say, please check my work. If this does not match what you think it should, let me know. And there are fewer errors this month than there were last month, so I'm encouraged by that. So,
what kind of errors would you be making?
Spelling error. I miss a date, or I get I found out that what was the name of the town that I put in. I put in the wrong province in Canada. But yeah, so things like that.
This is a fascinating topic because I am a massive fan of the NMRA. I feel like everybody that's a model railroader should belong to the NMRA. I'm not a fan of necessarily the dues. I'm not necessarily a fan of the way it's run sometimes. But I always say I'll be like the last guy leaving. I will always be a member of the NMRA. So this is fascinating that a good friend of mine is now the AP chairman. Is there any kind of a database for people? Like I think I've got 3 AP awards. I think I've got operation, author, and volunteer. But I'm not sure I know I've got my operation or my volunteer and author certificate, but I can't find my operation certificate. Bruce the mailboy won't give it to me. I'm convinced he has it, but he won't give it to me. Although it's probably gone in his house fire now. So, is there any kind of a database for who has what certificates?
There is. Resides at National. That's national down in Tennessee, not national in Beaver Creek, Ohio. But I'm working to get some of those records. I know the NMRA is working on updating its the way it does membership, and as part of that, we're combining a bunch of different databases. And one of the things that will be combined in that is the AP records. So you should be able to go into the website under your membership number and be able to pull up exactly what certificates you have and when you earned them. For right now, you can contact me or one of the regional or division folks, and they can make the inquiry from Jenny, and she can look it up for you.
I think I'll be contacted.
I just had one this month where he said, hey, I got a certificate back when I was a member of the Mid-Central region. I'm now living in Maryland. Can you help me out? And it was just a matter of a couple of emails, and within 24 hours, I had him an answer. Yep, you earned that certificate in April of 2013. I will print you off a duplicate and get it in the mail.
I think I'm going to be contacting the AP chairman and seeing if he can find out how many certificates I've got. Because I'm moderately interested in the whole master model railroader thing. I think it's a great thing for those who want to do it. I think it's I highly respect it. It's not something I think I'm particularly interested in, but I highly respect it. And I think for those people that want to do it, it's a great way to go. But with times changing so much, do you see now 3D printing's coming into vogue? And a discussion I've had with some people is, some of these guys that build these Lego models, these model railroad Lego models are fantastic. And do you have, you're so new to it. I'm assuming you probably haven't even been part of any of these discussions. Like what is your, what's one of the main things you'd like to change or improve in the Master Model Railroad program? Now, is it wrong to call it the MMR program, or do you have to call it the Achievement Program?
You can call it the MMR program. You can call it, the MMR is one of the things that happens under the Achievement Program. The Achievement Program actually is a little bit more encompassing. Are you familiar with the Golden Spike Award?
I am familiar with the Golden. In fact, I think I have a Golden Spike Award.
Yeah, I would be surprised if you didn't. But in any case, the Golden Spike Award is also one of the things that happens under the AP. So,
And what is the Golden
one of the
Spike?
things
Well, hang on. What is the Golden Spike Award exactly? Because there'll be a lot of people listening
the
that have no
Golden Spike
idea.
Award is, yeah, it's basically the starting point. So the achievement program certificates. There are certificates, like I said earlier, in like 11 different areas. Yeah, for building cars, building motive power, doing scenery, things like that. But uh, the Golden Spike Award is the starting point for that. And what that is really kind of a sampler. So in order to earn your Golden Spike, you need to build, I think it's 6 pieces of rolling stock or motive power, and they need to be, yeah, well, yeah, not a old school Athearn shake the box and put it together, but something fairly substantial, more along the lines of maybe a branch line kit or something like that. But you need to either scratch builder to do a craftsman kit or do a super detailed commercial kit. So if you're talking about a blue box, you shave the grab irons off, you replace them with wire, things like that. So 6 units of rolling stock, 8 square feet of scenery, 5 structures, and then let's see, 3 types of track, and make sure that it all works together. So when I talk 3 types of track, when I talk about that, I'm talking like a turnout or a crossing or a crossover or a gauntlet track or something along those lines.
This is all to get the gold. Hang on. This is all to get the Golden Spike Award.
Well, here's the thing: 8 square feet. That's a 2x4 module.
Yeah, I know.
Do you have 6 pieces of rolling stock?
Sure. And the track, does the track have
5 structures?
Hang on. Does the track have to be hand laid?
No.
Okay. It just has to work.
You can use Pico or Micro Engineering or Atlas or whatever it is that you want.
Okay. So like a Golden Spike Award, like you say, is something to give you a taste of, without it being too terribly complicated. It's something to give you a taste of achieving Master Model Railroader.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So it's kind of your introduction to the program. And then beyond that, there's the different certificates that we've talked about. Now, one of the things that I've noticed, I've talked with a lot of people about the program over the last few months. Like I said, what they like, what they don't like, and one of the things that keeps coming up is an analogy of the achievement program to the Boy Scout Merit Badge program, where it's like you go out and you'll get for Eagle Scout, you need to do a citizenship badge, you need to do a wilderness survival, you need to do different types of badges. And if you do enough of these things, they give you an award, whether it's first class or life or Eagle or whatever that might be. And so you might think about the achievement program as the Golden Spike is your tenderfoot award. That's the one that you get when you come in and you prove that you can handle a pocket knife and not injure yourself or others around you. You can start a fire. You can do these very basic things. At the other end of the spectrum, there's an Eagle Scout, which is kind of your Master Model Railroader equivalent. But along the way, as you're earning these merit badges, there's a guidebook that tells you here's how to do these different skills. And one of the things I don't think we've done a good job at is providing that guidance. You need to hand lay a turnout. How do you do that? Well, there's a lot of tutorials and things out there, but if you go onto the NMRA website, it's hard to find that information. And so one of the things I would like to do over the next few years is for each of these requirements that you see in order to get an achievement certificate, I want to see a tutorial. I want to see a written description. Here's how you do this. I want to see a video that goes along. Here's how you do this, because people learn in different ways. Because right now it's a list of requirements, and you need to find somebody who's willing to mentor you, or you need to go out and find all that information on your own. And I think we can do a better job of making that available to people.
Yeah, like you have to have an achievement certificate in each one of the categories, right? Model railroad equipment, settings, engineering operations, service to the hobby. You have to have one in each category, right?
Correct. And a total of 7.
A total of 7. See, and I Master Builder Motive Power, Master Builder Cars. I'm like, I think I'd be completely lost doing that. I can't ever see me being able to build a locomotive and barely able to build cars.
Yeah. Well, but again, that's just one of those things where you don't just, step into it, say, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to build a 100-point model of whatever car this is. There's a learning curve along the way. There was a clinic at the National that was how I earned, something like scratching my way to my car's certificate. And he basically started with label kits and progressively more complicated label kits. And having learned how to do it using these kits, which are wood components, it's just that label has gone through and sourced them all for you. You learn how to put the car together. You learn how the brake gear goes together. You learn how to put a grab iron on. You learn all these things using these label kits, and then you switch over and you start scratch building things because of one of the requirements for the certificate is that you need X number of cars. Some of them have to be scratch built, and so he laid out a really interesting program how you get from the beginning to the end of that, and in a very methodical manner. And that's one of the things I think we can do a better job at with the NMRA is providing that information to people and showing them, here's a way that you can do this thing.
Right. Like for master builder cars, you need to make 8 super detailed cars. 4 of them need to achieve 87.5 points. 4 out of the 8 models have to achieve 87.5 points in either an NMRA sponsored contest or in the AP Merit Award judging, because you don't have to enter a contest. If you can get somebody to come and judge your stuff, an AP, somebody who's designated as an AP judge in your particular region, you can get your Merit Award that way.
Yes.
Okay. Wow. See, okay, so how do you encourage people to because it seems, to me, it just seems massively overwhelming. And I would consider myself to be a pretty good average model railroader. So, I kind of look at myself thinking, well, I wrote like over 250 pages of text for Model Railroad magazine. That ought to qualify me for something.
Yeah, well, I think you already got that one. That one's called the author certificate.
Yeah, I already have that one. Yeah, okay. So, and how I think there's like 750 master model railroaders throughout time, I believe, isn't there?
I just put together the plaque for number 773.
Well, there you go. So I was only 23 off. So okay. So as the AP chairman, how would you describe to somebody that this is a good thing? Like we have a guy that's a regular on the podcast, Scott Lister. He's AKA the Table Master, AKA Scooter, who is probably one of the best model builders I've ever met in my life, if not the best model builder I've ever met in my life. And I've met a lot of people. This guy easily would qualify for most of these certificates. I mean, he even built me 2 S-scale RS1s from those brass kits. I mean, they'd be good enough to qualify for probably.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So how do we go about convincing Scooter to become a master model railroader? Because other than author and volunteer or something like that, I mean, he's pretty much got the thing in the bag. He's got a beautiful layout. It's completely scenic. It runs really well. Yada yada yada. So how do we convince Scooter, who doesn't have any AP certificate, any of the certificates he needs to become a master model railroader? How do we convince this guy who does not particularly care for paperwork, or particularly, last year in Dallas, he won best structure. He won every award there was going for the 2 models he took. He won best in show. He won, I don't know, some other he won like 6 awards last year in Dallas. So he's a complete natural at being a master model railroader. If anybody should be, it should be Scott Lister. So how would we convince him to go through all this rigmarole to become a master model railroader?
See, and that's one of the things that I want to do. And when I went to the National, I basically told him I have 3 things that I would like to do. I want to encourage participation. I want to eliminate barriers, and I want to embrace emerging technology. And you mentioned 3D printing earlier, and that's an example of that. And so what we're talking about, Scott, we're talking about encouraging the participation. Now, I can't make Scott want to be a master model railroader. He's got to want that for himself. What I can do is get rid of the barriers, and you mentioned the paperwork. And so as an organization, we're looking at a couple of options there. which will make that a lot easier. I can't really say what they are right now because they're still too preliminary. But the idea is going to be that you're not going to have to fill out reams of paperwork. A lot of the stuff is going to happen very organically as you go through the process, and it should get rid of. It won't get rid of all of the documentation requirements because some is required just to prove that you've done the work.
Sure.
But generally speaking, I think it's going to be a much more streamlined process than it has been. But you mentioned he's obviously already got the skills to do it.
Yeah,
so let's create a process by which he almost has to come up with an excuse to not get that recognition.
There you go. That's the way I would think about it. Let's come up with a process where a guy like Scott, who is obviously an incredible model railroader, who obviously has the skills to do this. Not everybody wants to do paperwork. I hate paperwork. That's why I don't like timetable and train order model railroad operation, because I don't want to do paperwork. If I wanted to do paperwork, I could just sit at my office and do paperwork. When I'm model railroading, I just like building stuff and enjoying running the layout, And so, yeah, that's got to be Scott Lister has to be our goal to make him a master model railroader, because anybody you meet that has come across Scott and seen his layout and seen some of the work that he does will tell you that this guy is a master model railroader. Period. End of sentence. So that's right. You got to figure out a way to streamline it. That's all. And that's pretty much my attitude about the NMRA today is we got to eliminate the bureaucracy from 40 years ago. Those days are gone. We have a whole new way of being, and we have a whole new way of being where we can, talk to each other so easily, like what we're doing now. And now what's happened now. We got a couple minutes left, but we've chewed up an hour and 20 minutes. And you were worried that we'd be able to do 15.
Well, I thought we could get to 15. It was getting to 20 that I was concerned about.
Because this is a great I want the NMRA to flourish and survive. So the fact that you and I are already friends, and now you're the AP chairman, we got to get you on here more often to talk about the plus. Like, what would you say? Like, I've heard this from master model railroaders who say that because they got involved in the program, it improved their modeling skills. And if it wasn't for the drive to become a master model railroader, they would never have taken on some of the tasks they did that they needed that were required to finish to come up with it.
I agree with that completely. Because that mirrors my own experience. And at some point it becomes a kind of a game that you play with yourself, because you're not competing one model versus another. You're competing against a standard. And so I'm looking at the standard and it's like, how can I build a better model that I will, the one that I can really be proud of. And kind of the gold standard is, that's a model that I want on my layout. If you can say that, then you've got a good model. But there's, I just lost the train of thought.
Well,
there it goes. Out the window.
I got a good comment / question. So basically, I think it's important for people to understand that if you want to pursue the Master Model Railroad program, there's no requirement to enter NMRA contests. You can have all of this done by having your local regional AP guy judge your stuff. You do not have to compete against others to become a master model railroader.
That is absolutely true. In fact, they're different forms. To be honest, there's a form for the contest room, and then there's a separate evaluation form that you use if you're just doing the AP evaluation. And so you're absolutely right, because there are people who don't want to put themselves out there, and I will at the risk of incurring Peter Borchard's wrath, I'm going to throw my British brethren under the bus a little bit here. It's part of their culture. I don't see a lot of competitiveness there, and so when I got there, they had stopped having a contest room because nobody wanted to bring a model. And I don't know whether it's because it wasn't considered genteel or whatever the reason was. Maybe Peter can answer that at some point. But it was I had to work really, really hard to get them to start up a contest room again and to do that. But it doesn't have to be a contest. It can just be any NMRA thing where there's a judge that's available. The local AP chair can arrange to have some people there to assess the model. And yeah, that's actually a really interesting way to do things, because what happens then is you're sitting there with the model and you've got your description of it, and they will go through and evaluate it against the national standard. And when you're doing it in that form, they ask you questions. Oh, why did you do this? Why did you do it that way? And what they're trying to do is figure out your thought process as you were building it. You also get some feedback where it says, oh, you see here, you're not going to get quite as good of a score on this because there's some glue that seeped out between these boards right here. You see that right there, or you see that little gap right there. And in real time, they can point out things that if you were to fix them, make a better model. And that's one of the things that's really hard to do in a contest room, because you've got 30 or 40 or 50 models you're trying to evaluate in a few hours. You don't have a lot of time to spend on it. You've got to move very quickly. And because of that, sometimes the messages that the judges leave are not worded in a way as to encourage learning or to bring out that they don't have the right feel to them. It's much faster to write nasty gaps on this part of it, as opposed to the model could be improved if you paid more attention to this gap. And it's just a stylistic thing. But if you get these criticisms in a contest room, that's going to turn people off. And that's, again, we talked about barriers. That's one of the things I really want to get after. Let's think about, if we're doing evaluations like that, let's think about the wording that we're using. And that's going to be a change for a lot of the model assessors out there, because they've never had to think that way before. It's going to be a new expectation.
Right. If you go to your AP, if you go to the NMRA.org and you go under education, then you'll find the master model or the achievement program. And then you can look at the AP staff, and on that AP staff page, it says AP committee chairman, Ray Persing, a personal friend of Lionel Strang. And then it has Australian region, British region, Lone Star region, Mid-Central. So there's a guy. So it looks like Frank Koch is still going to be the guy for the Mid-Central region for the time being.
That's correct.
And our look at that, Mid-Continent region AP chairman is our very own Craig Grenkow. Now, Craig, we got to get you on the podcast to talk about that. So
he just took that role fairly recently.
Right. So every region, wow, and the guy that is the Niagara Frontier Region AP manager is Richard Hatton, who just lives like 20 miles from me. I should get him to come and look at some of my stuff. And so, okay, so on every region has a guy that you can contact, and there's most of them have address and phone number and email address. So every region has a regional AP manager, who is somebody that you would go, some of them have like a Southern Region AP manager, and then in brackets it says SER-33. What does that mean?
The 33 is the region number.
Oh, okay. All right. I knew that. I was just testing you.
Yeah.
Guess what, Ray?
What?
Go ahead and guess something. Go ahead, guess what?
Oh. We're out of time?
We're out of time, buddy.
Man.
See?
Ready to go another hour and a half.
Exactly.
Sure, we can't go another hour and a half?
We could on another podcast, on another edition of Modeler's Life, yeah. You are going to be
we ought to do that. Yeah,
See? And at that time you won't come on and go, well, I'm not sure we got much to say. So you'll be used to it. But we've run out of time. We have flat run out of time. We've been at this for an hour and 25 minutes, and we still have to do the intro. And we still have to do the wrap-up for this particular, which will probably involve me and the mail boy, or me and the stubby professor. One thing I wanted to ask you, you said when you were standing beside the driver of the locomotive, you said you were 24 inches tall. Now, were you referring to like today, or were you referring to when you were like 3 years old?
That was when I was like 2 years old.
Oh, okay. Yes, I was going to say, I've talked to you, and you seem like you're taller than a couple of feet to me.
A bit.
All right, that's it.
Yeah, that was one of my dad's favorite stories. You know, we took you all the way to see that train, and all you did was cry because you couldn't see it.
One of my favorite stories about my son is he's now starting to run my business, and somebody questioned his, because he's been solidly involved now in the business for 2 or 3 years, and somebody questioned his knowledge of my particular business. And without missing a beat, he said, because I've told him numerous times, without missing a beat, he said, well, I've been in the office since I was 3 weeks old. So I've been here pretty much the whole time. My whole life, I've pretty much been in the office. To which then, if we're in the same room together having the same conversation, I said, yeah, but you weren't really doing any heavy filing until you were 6 months old. He'd answer the phone a couple of times and stuff. So just like you were been a model railroader since you were 2. That seemed a lot funnier when I was telling it. All right, that's it, Ray. So now we have to have you end the show. So after I do the introduction, after we play this particular part of the podcast, your hour and 30 minutes, it keeps getting longer and longer. And then after we do the wrap up, we need you to close out the show, because this is going to be a numbered episode on the modeler's life journey. So what did you think of that interview, Bruce?
I thought it was great. I think Ray is going to be, continuing on the excellence that was set by others, and I'm looking forward to see some of these changes. They've already made some change in the structures, thereby allowing some low relief structures, which people have been asking for. And
right. Okay.
I think the idea of the electronic paperwork is good. So
hang on. You can't go past these changes too much. So what is the change in structures?
A lot of people who are modeling shelf layouts don't have the depth to put full-size buildings on, and there've been some complaining about that. So they've allowed now for up to 3 of your structures, 3 of the 12 structures required for your structures certificate. You can have a low relief building, not less than, I think it's 3 inches depth. And you can do 3 of those, but that opens up to, you can have like a 3-inch wide building on your fascia with a fully detailed interior on the inside looking out over the tracks, or that type of thing. So
is it 12 structures?
12 structures you need, yes.
And they all have to have detailed interiors?
12 structures, 6 have to be scratch built, 1 has to be a bridge, and the 6 aren't scratch built, they have to be super detailed and of merit quality.
Wow.
So
where do you stand? I mean, why aren't you a master model railroader yet?
Because I got burned out after the 2003 convention in Toronto and didn't really do much in NMRA work-wise until like a couple of years ago. I started doing some more. So right now I have my chief dispatcher certificate, which you also have. I'll get that straightened around with Ray for you. I also have volunteer, official, and author. So I've got 4 of the 7, and I'm working on motive power cars and structures.
Volunteer or official, so that means you served in the region somewhere.
I was superintendent of the Central Ontario Division for 8 years, I think.
So you've got 4 of the 7.
I've got 4 of the 7 I need. So I'm working on motive power cars and structures.
So are you actually doing something on anything?
I am. I've got... currently, you got 3 different models in various stages of construction for structures, and that's one I'm going to work on, get it out of the way first, then work on cars, and then work on motive power.
So, for cars and motive power, couldn't you just submit some Rapido trains?
Your fast track to model railroading fun?
Rapido trains, your fast track to model railroading fun.
You could, for the one of them, you added all sorts of detail to them, but those come pretty much loaded with details. There's probably not a lot you could add.
That's what I'm thinking.
Motive power, you need 3, of which 1 has to be scratch built. Cars, you need 8, 4 of which have to be scratch built. 1 has to be a passenger car. And then,
I could never.
If they're not scratch built, they got to be super detailed. So.
I could never scratch build a locomotive. How could you scratch build? Would you even make the frame?
Actually, it's not that difficult, at least the one I'm looking at. So it should be all right. And then one of the ones I'm submitting is an etch brass kit that I ran by Frank Koch before. It said, listen, would this qualify? And he said, oh, absolutely. It's, even though it's a kit, it shows, everything's soldered and this and that. So he says, it certainly shows you have the capabilities of doing it. So that would certainly qualify as one of the 3 for motive power. And then I've got another kit I'm looking at detailing up, and then another one similar to one of the kits that's going to be scratch built. And I think I'll probably do it out of styrene, and because I can't quite figure out how to do some of the curved surfaces in 3D CAD yet. So if I can figure that out, then I'll do that. But until then, I'll plan on doing it out of styrene because I can figure that out.
I would have thought 3D CAD would have been like falling off a log for you.
It's not, because I've done CAD for years, but 3D is a whole, thinking in the third dimension. So it's a different. I've been screwing around with it, and I've done some drawings and getting the hang of it. But it's one of these days I'll get there and I'll say boom, it'll go and it'll all come. But I haven't been playing with it enough to get really familiar with it. So I'm getting there. Then I can actually pull my 3D printer out of the bag.
The title, it says here, the title of Master Model Railroader is not an easy one to achieve. In case you are wondering how many modelers have attained the title, take a look at the Master Model Railroader list. I think when I talked to them, there'd been 773.
Yeah, I think they're up to 787 now or something like that.
Yeah, it seems
NMRA magazine. They're pushing 800. I know that.
I think ever since the advent of social media in the last 10 years, the number of Master Model Railroaders has risen dramatically.
Yeah, it's certainly getting there.
So it says for a railroad equipment, it's Master Builder Motive Power, Master Builder Cars. Do you have to do both of those?
In my case, I do, because I won't have any certificates for civil, electrical, or scenery to pull in.
Okay.
So I'll get structures, which is out of one of those categories, and then use motive power and cars for the other category, because you have to have 7 certificates, 1 out of each of the 4 categories.
Okay. Well, anyways, I said to him, if somebody should be a master model railroader already, it should be our very own table master. The man they call Scooter. He should already be.
I've been telling him to hook up with his local aid, because certainly with what he's done on his layout and the motive power he's built and the cars he's built and structures built, I would say he's probably got motive power, cars, structures, civil, electrical, scenery, which is 6. Then he just needs volunteer or author or whatever. And then volunteering, I know he's had his layout open for some events. So things like that help. And then if we can convince him to write some articles for Mr. Vondrack at RMC, then he should be able to get there. But I'm thinking with his present layout, if he gets somebody in as judge all that he's probably got a good pile of certificates already in hand. Maybe need 1 or 2 to get it.
Yeah, and he's certainly capable of getting it. I'm thinking
absolutely.
The 2 RS1 locomotives that he built me for Peterson Coal Company, you know what? I think because they're mine now, I think maybe I'll just use those and apply for Master Model Railroader with his stuff.
Uh-huh.
What do you think?
They frown upon that.
Yeah, I guess I kind of blew it anyway.
Actually, I'm trying to think now. When I was, this would be back in the late 90s. I was at the NFR convention was up in Ottawa, and there was talk there. They had stripped the Master Model Railroader of his title because he had been I
remember that,
putting forth work that was not his own.
I remember that. Yeah,
they said no, you can't do that.
Yeah, I think they actually took it away from him, didn't they?
They took it away from him. Yep.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
But see now, if he had used Rapido trains
or fast track and model railroading fun.
If it's N, if it's HO, the fast track is Rapido.
He would have had a whole different outlook on the hobby and would probably been able to just do the work himself.
And then the other people, and it irks me that people, it's just a bunch of snobs, elitist guys. Some of the nicest people I met are MMRs. They're always willing to share with you, and because that's part of the thing is you help out others where you can. And it's not a contest. It's about improving your own modeling skills. Because if you get involved in the AP and work on models for, structures, cars, and things like that, you will absolutely improve your modeling skills.
If you go to the education page, and then you go on the AP model categories, I'm looking at structures, and you scroll all the way down to the bottom. It says, also refer to articles, Master Builder Structures, the Building Inspector, both in the NMRA Bulletin 1991. They're listed. They're reproduced here on the website, and there's a ton of information there about what you need to do.
There is too. And the other handy thing is, I don't know if you already talked about, on the section there under forms, there is the judging guidelines you can download for motive, power, structures, and cars, which gives you a matrix, a bunch of matrices that the judges use for scoring, and it really helps you out when you're building your model. You can follow along that and figure where you might be as far as scoring goes. Gives you a good idea if you got to kick it up a notch, or you might be all right.
Yeah, I have never had any indication that master model railroaders are snobs. That's for sure. The ones I've known, I certainly never got that feeling. I'm sure there are.
Probably are, but then those are the ones people go. Nah. But like I say, any of the ones I've met, they've been very gracious in offering advice or questions. So it's it's nice. I've had a few reach out to me, say, hey, listen, I could be any help for you. Let me know.
All right. Can you give out our email address?
Yes, our email address. Let us know what you thought of our talk with the new AP chair. Send us an email at modeler'slife@gmail.com. That's modeler'slife with one L like llama, not two L's like llama.
And if you missed that particular presentation, or presentation of the email address, if you just go to our website, A Modeler's Life, and scroll down .com and scroll down a little bit, you'll see a picture of the moderately agitated male boy in a particularly agitated state. All you got to do is click on that picture, and boom. The address is already filled in for you. All you got to do is put in your subject and your text, and away you go. And we love getting email. We
love it. We have a whole program devoted to it.
Yeah, pros and cons. We don't care if you don't like something we're doing. Tell us.
Let us know. That's the only way we can improve.
Well, we might not change it, but we still want to know.
That's true.
And let's see, what else is there to tell you? Oh, yeah. If you like this particular podcast on the free channel, Monday's always free, you can click on the Patreon link, and for just a few cents a day, you'll get twice as much podcasting a week. You'll get a podcast on Monday and one on Tuesday. Tuesday's kind of more of our back porch, down home.
Yep.
Let your hair down.
Sit around the lemonades and having a good old chew. Yep.
Yeah, and just having fun. It's all about having fun on Tuesday.
Absolutely.
That's what it's about on Tuesdays, having fun.
And what else do you get at the Patreon? Patreon.
Well, and then if you decide to go to the T-shirt level, then you get entered into the new game that's sweeping the globe. Hey, dude, where's my shirt?
Absolutely.
And basically what happens if you're in the $10 level, every year you get a free T-shirt that's only available to Patreon members. And the thing is, everybody gets their shirt. The question is, when do you get your shirt?
Yes,
because the guy that's in charge of it is he's slow.
Slow. Yeah.
He's a bit of a simpleton. He's useless.
Not pointing any fingers in anybody, but yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like me and doing homework in high school.
You rather begin plywood for the principal.
Yeah, well, there's things to do, stuff to do, and you get around to it eventually.
Yeah.
Let's see what else. Oh yeah. Have you ever wanted a T-shirt with a hot dog on it?
Absolutely. Who wouldn't want a T-shirt with a hot dog in it?
Exactly. I know our buddy Brad Williamson has like a closet full of them.
I think he's got the biggest collection going.
Yeah, exactly.
He must have at least one for every day of the week by now.
Yeah. And we got to make tank tops for our buddy Todd Treaster, who's always wearing tank tops.
The stubby professor would look in the tank top too.
No, he wouldn't. No. He wouldn't. He wouldn't look good in one. You wouldn't look good in one. I wouldn't look good in one. Only Todd can pull it off.
There you go.
But we should make a tank top with a hot dog on it.
There you
go. So anyways, as you go to Midwest Model Railroad, and their URL is midwestmodelrr.com, and scroll across the navigation bar to other, and click down the drop-down menu. You see AML Shop, and boom, you are in a wonderland of stuff, merchandise for the modeler's life, hats, hoodies, T-shirts, mugs, whatever you could need. And in there, you'll find a T-shirt with a hot dog on it.
And they ship very fast.
Yeah, they do ship fast. That's one thing.
They do. It's either like the same day or next day they'll be shipping stuff.
So. They send it out immediately.
Yep.
I think that's it.
It is.
And the last part of the show, Ray and I pre-recorded that, so this is it, buddy.
This is it.
We're done.
All right.
I'm turning the microphones off.
Well, turn the microphones off then. Adios.
See you later. What I need you to do at the appropriate moment is say happy rails to you. Now, the key to this is there's no singing. There's no dancing. No singing. Yeah, we didn't even get into your local theater arts thing that you're involved. I wanted to talk to you about that. All right. Anyways.
Well, I guess we'll have to do it again sometime.
We're gonna. So there's no singing, there's no dancing, and there's no interpretation of any kind. I'm sorry, but you have to put your acting skills aside. All I want you to do is, with enthusiasm, say, happy rails to you. Do you think you can handle that?
I don't know. It's a tall order, man.
All right. Well, Ray, as we close the barn doors on another episode of Modeler's Life and the sun slowly sets over the back 40, I guess there's nothing else left to do except for you to say,
happy rails to you.
While in Busted Knuckle, guests of a Modeler's Life podcast stay at the Casa del Sol Motor Court and Inn, where late-night dancing at the Rumba Room is a magical event to be experienced.
It's another Lincoln Homer.